Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of CoinNewsExtra interview session, a program where we invite innovators, influencers, and stakeholders in the blockchain, crypto, and fintech ecosystem to come air their views on matters arising and the state of the ecosystem. So today I have with me Edwardo Jackson, who is the CEO and founder of CinemaDraft, and he is also a crypto consultant. Edward, you are welcome to CoinNewsExtra.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure to have you. So how is Las Vegas today?
Well, actually, hopefully everyone's quarantining and celebrating the inauguration of new president.
Yes, it's a very good new thing for America. That's very good. So we'll be looking at leveraging Bitcoin to build a business. So, but before we start that topic, I would like to get a brief about yourself and your background.
Sure. Pretty much writer by birth and by trade. Published 3 novels in my 20s, early 30s. Really, worked on the fringes of Hollywood as a screenwriter. Didn't get anything produced, unfortunately, and eventually went more entrepreneurial in the self-publishing and promotion of my 3rd novel. And that's kind of what had me ready mentally when the recession hit for Bitcoin. I did not really embrace the concept of Bitcoin until about early 2013, when I was working with Upworthy. I was looking for an interesting video to write about, and I stumbled across Max Kaiser. Bitcoin had just crossed $50, I think, at the time, and his hair's on fire. He's so excited. He was like, "I just became a Bitcoin millionaire," and I'm like, "What is this Bitcoin stuff?" And so I wrote up his piece because it was very intriguing, and I just went down the rabbit hole. And then a month later, I bought my first few Bitcoin at $88 per.
And you, I believe that time you might have thought that you came in late, not knowing that you came in very early. That's how it is.
Yeah. And then after that, I guess, to bring up to speed what I'm doing today, went into professional poker for a while. Actually, that started in 2011, and once I kind of had my little run with that, eventually transitioned into. And actually, while I was doing professional poker, I worked briefly for a startup Bitcoin poker site called Infinity Poker, RIP. Didn't quite make the transition, but I did learn a lot about the Bitcoin ecosystem and some of the holes in security and also how it'd be really beneficial as for a global game like poker and global interest, borderless, permissionless, things of that nature. And so I just really been a huge advocate of Bitcoin since I first learned about it, and found a way to incorporate cryptocurrency into what I'm working on now, which is CinemaDraft, which is essentially fantasy sports meets the movies. So instead of picking athletes for teams, you're picking actors for movies that are in current release, and how the movies perform at the box office. You earn points for your call sheet, like your roster of actors, and you compete against friends for fun and prizes. And so basically, in making the daily fantasy sports DFS-ification of Hollywood during the pandemic, we actually have been pivoting more towards a streaming content model. So now weekly we're covering like the Netflixes and Hulus and Disney Plus and things of that nature, and seeing how they perform with a fairly new rating system that kind of amalgamates critical rating and audience rating for a score. So we've been in the alpha test of that, very basic spreadsheet version, while we build up the code for the site. And we wanted to incorporate cryptocurrency into it all by having a decentralized app, a smart contract based cryptocurrency called CD3D, which would serve as the in-game token economy for the game.
That's very nice, a very nice one. So I was able to go through your LinkedIn page, and I saw you wrote you are a leading voice for diversity in the nascent Bitcoin community. How do you achieve that?
Well, I was just early. I mean, and I'm not even sure if I'm definitely not, the most prominent, but I am one of the earliest. When I got into Bitcoin in 2013, in April 2013, and spent a lot of time on Reddit, because back then, it was mostly a bunch of Redditing, and wasn't a ton of exposure information. Back then, there was a very real possibility of Bitcoin going to zero. So when I was in the community, I just noticed that a lot of the early adopters, were white libertarian males, and you know what? Bless them, they have as much right to space anyone. But I noticed that there weren't a whole lot of African Americans or rich, people outside of that white libertarian cohort that either were knowledgeable about Bitcoin or were talking it up. I think there might have been Reggie Middleton back then, and maybe one or two other, Black people I saw in passing, but I didn't really know of too many Black people who were really into promoting Bitcoin. So that's why I started my site, blacksinbitcoin.com, in January 2014, because I just wanted to be like a welcoming face. Like, look, we're out here. Anyone can join into cryptocurrency. Actually, it was just Bitcoin back then. Anyone can really, it's like Bitcoin, like Litecoin, and maybe Dogecoin, right? So anyone can get into Bitcoin. Anyway, there's no barrier for entry. I just want to get some basic education up. As you can tell from the site, it's not a very professional site. It's very much a hobby site, but I still enjoy updating it from time to time. And and as far as being, leading, I was pretty much just kind of one of the earlier ones. I'm still one of, I think I still am one of the top results if you type in Black and Bitcoin. So, I'm just old.
You really entered at a very early stage. 2013 is very quite early. Talking about leveraging Bitcoin to build a business, and there are some business opportunities in Bitcoin, and how can individuals and companies leverage Bitcoin?
Well, I think, well, as far as the company side, we're seeing it firsthand. I mean, the our guy Michael Saylor had a real, Saul on the road to Damascus moment. I mean, he fell off his donkey, and now he's just running. He's straight Paul right now. He is telling everybody who will listen about Bitcoin and why it makes sense as an investment strategy for corporations, as a hedge against, a weakening dollar. I mean, the U.S. dollar, which somehow is still the global reserve currency of the world, has lost 93% of its purchasing power since 1910. So, and it just keeps getting lower as we keep printing more money to stay alive. So people are seeing the coming reckoning of all this debt that we've had to produce in order to survive the pandemic. Matter of fact, our incoming president on my other screen right now has proposed a $1.9 trillion stimulus, and they're just going to print that money. They're just going to add zeros to bank accounts, and it's, and it is not really backed by anything. So I think as a hedge against the weakening dollar, power of the dollar, companies are looking at Bitcoin as a store of value, as an excellent hedge against inflation, as Bitcoin, is a deflationary currency, cryptocurrency by default, and I welcome them onto the bandwagon. So that's one. Two, from an individual standpoint, a lot of people will see the price of Bitcoin. Last time I checked, around $35,000, and feel daunted. They'll feel like they missed it. And honestly, I know how you feel. When I bought mine at $88, I thought I'd missed it because just a month before it was $50. And then the irony was that in January, one of my poker player acquaintances, she bought some in January of 2013 at $30 for Bitcoin. So I thought I missed it, but little did I know how early we were. And back then we didn't have nearly as much data, or information on the halving cycles and how those reacted to, find comfort in. And now we have all that previous data that shows us, that can estimate fairly, predictably, how long a bull cycle will last, how long a bear cycle will last, and give us some really quant-based price targets that we can look forward to. I personally, even before stumbling onto the charts and the quant side, I personally believe that Bitcoin will reach at least $1 million per Bitcoin in USD in our lifetime. And there's really good information out there, really good chart stuff out there that predicts that we can see, up to $5 million per Bitcoin within the next decade and a half.
Yeah, it has a lot of potentials, we believe so. So we've seen, like you rightly said when you were saying something, you said we've been able to see a lot of big tech companies are looking towards Bitcoin. We see some of them buying Bitcoin, the likes of Square, who bought 50 million Bitcoin. That was last year. We know how much it will worth now. So we see, what do you think? Is it a good business strategy?
Is it a good business strategy to buy Bitcoin, or what would
To
be a good
build,
business?
is it a good strategy to build business buying Bitcoin like this big techs?
Oh, absolutely. And well, especially for a fintech company that actually is a payment processor or a money provider, I think they call it a money services business like Square Cash, totally makes sense. You're giving an option for more ways for people to engage with your product and to service their demand. Honestly, it really is just a response to demand. I don't think Jamie Dimon ever wanted to be in business with Bitcoin the way he talked so bad about it over the last, 5 to 7 years, but he's in it because there's so much demand from his customers. You have hedge funds, random rich people, even pension funds who are dipping their toe into Bitcoin waters. Yes, it is volatile, but the responsible thing for some of these big time pension funds, hedge funds, institutional investors is to invest 1 to 5 to 10%, if you're really aggressive, of your portfolio, enough that you don't need to constantly worry about and keep your eye on, and just let it go and see what happens. Me, obviously, I'm a huge Bitcoin believer. I'm over leveraged probably, but I've been in it for a long time, and I've survived the real systemic risks to the coin price. Now I feel extremely comfortable in not only some of the price targets, but investing at any level at any price up to maybe say $1 million per Bitcoin, because I just know that based on basic supply and demand, there's way too much demand and not enough supply for Bitcoin. I'm very into this price modeling put out by a Twitter account called at 100 trillion USD. If you haven't seen him, check it out. It's very interesting model. I assume it's a he. That's probably bad, but their assumption is that Bitcoin will reach $100 trillion, sorry, in market cap within, I guess, the next 10 to 15 years, which would be an average about $5 million per Bitcoin. And they've got like charts, predicting it. They've mathed it all out. I'm bad at math. I have an MBA, but I'm bad at math, so I just trust the numbers. And they've got it all planned out, and it makes sense to me. I wrote a blog post about 3 years ago during the last bull run about why it's never too late to buy Bitcoin. And one of the 6 key points I laid out in the article is that there's over 350 trillion with a T, trillion dollars worth of currencies, real estate, or other assets that will be digitized on the blockchain someday. $350 trillion. We have barely $1 trillion in total cryptocurrency worth right now. So we're just getting started.
That's very nice. We are just getting started. It has really been an amazing time out with you, Edwardo Jackson, the CEO and founder, CinemaDraft, and also a crypto consultant. Lastly, before we draw the curtain on today's episode of CoinNewsExtra interview, I would like to get your closing remarks.
Again, I'm sorry, what was that?
Your closing remark.
Oh, well, while we are in development, I definitely encourage everyone to check out CinemaDraft at cinemadraft.co. CinemaDraft.co. We are going to have a very exciting, fun, different version of a fantasy sports style game for the movies and streaming content that I think you all will enjoy. I heartily encourage everyone to buy Bitcoin at any price. Buy the dips, buy the highs, buy whatever. We're going to $5 million per Bitcoin, baby. Let's do it. And I just want to thank you guys for your time and exposing me, hopefully, to a new audience who will check us out. Also, my personal Bitcoin blogging site is blacksinbitcoin.com. So feel free to check me out.
Interesting. Thank you very
much. I'm sorry. One more thing. I also want to give big props to the Black People in Cryptocurrency Facebook group. Black People in Cryptocurrency Facebook group. We are almost 12,000 strong. A great place to come and talk crypto, learn a lot. Great discussions in there, and we definitely work hard to keep the timeline scam free.
That's very nice. Thank you very much. It has really, really been an amazing time with you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lee. Appreciate you.
Okay.